So we are here. We're on festive season. This is most of the times where people face grief. This is a time where people are going back to their villages. This is a time where a lot of people are supposed to be meeting up with their loved ones, and some have lost their loved ones. Some have not reflected or looked back at how this has impacted them. And you are going back home. You are going to face an empty house. Every Christmas, every New Year's, this is what happened. The rituals that happened back at home, and it's not normal because your loved one is not there. And I want to also talk about, the loss of money, the loss of other relationships, how we keep on moving on without addressing such issues and failing to understand the impact that it has or it has left in you. It's when it will now show the impact or the effect of it during this time, where you look back. January, we were excited to start the new year. We had resolutions written down, but we have not achieved a lot of things that we actually wanted to achieve. What time do you actually put aside to be very sincere with yourself and say, these are the things that I wanted to achieve, and this is where I failed. These are my losses. These are my achievements. How do I now move forward to the next year?
Welcome to Moving Humanity Forward podcast. My name is Kathy Malajani. I like to tell people that I'm the village girl from Ramotsa, so I can tell them that I also like to tell people that I'm #CuriousCath because I have so very many questions. Now, our conversation today has to do with the festive season. It is that time to be merry. 'Tis the season, but we're talking today about something that I know quite a lot of people, myself included, have to deal with in this festive season. We're talking about grief. We're talking about handling loss. And when I talk about handling loss, I'm not only referring to a loved one, which was what happened to me 2 years ago, but losing a relationship, losing finances, losing love, your relationship, losing your health, just loss of any kind. We're going to be talking about how to deal with that, how to grieve it, and the ways in which you can help yourself as you journey through the grief of the loss of whatever it is you have lost. Now, we have somebody who's come here before. We've had her in the MHF studios. We're very excited to have her back. She is a social entrepreneur. She's founder and executive director of Ratong Center. She is co-founder of Botswana Palliative Care Association. And she's also a qualified counselor, a life coach, and a neuro-linguistic practitioner, right? All those hats that she wears. And she has over 15 years of experience in civil society. I'm so excited to have you back in our studio, Pearl. Thank you for joining us.
It feels so good to be back. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you. And though that said, we're talking about something that I think is quite heavy. I am going to try and be a little bit biased because I went through this myself, having lost my mom in November of 2023. That festive season felt like a daze. I don't really remember much. But last year, I know the grief really, really hit home, and yeah, it was quite hard. So I think let's first of all just start off talking about this. Let's define, when we talk about grief, what are we talking about, and what is its impact on our mental, on our emotional, as well as our physical life?
Yes. So I like that you clarifying that grief doesn't only mean the loss of someone or a loved one. So grief is such a misunderstood thing or an experience that is misunderstood by a lot of people. So we talk about loss, So loss, it's a natural feeling or a natural response of somebody reacting to losing something or someone close to them. So a lot of times we experience that after the loss of a loved one, after the loss of a job, a loss of maybe a business deal, loss of money, And like I said, it's misunderstood. It's something that people don't know how to regulate emotions through grief. And you find that if it happened in an unexpected way, because a lot of times we lose something without an expectation or without preparation of this is what might happen, people struggle a lot. There is acute grief, there is complicated grief. These are the types of grief that we see that people go through. And, with the acute grief, it's somebody understanding or acknowledging that they are in grief, but not knowing what to do. And this would always happen when the person who's experiencing the grief, is not able to get out of the emotions, especially the negative emotions, the sad emotions. And if this is not addressed well, it may lead to anxiety. It may lead to depression. We've had a couple of clients that we've dealt with who've actually gone through death, suicide. It can also lead to physical health challenges, stroke, heart palpitations, people starting to take medication of BP and all that. And then there's complicated grief, which is prolonged. And if this is also not addressed well, if somebody doesn't get the right support, if they don't know how to deal with it, properly, it can add into more prolonged complications of a daily life, change of a lifestyle. Maybe you start isolating. People knew Kathy was this kind of person. She was always jolly. And all of a sudden, Kathy isolates, withdraws. Kathy is not able to speak as loud and laugh as loud. And that can just change a person's character, which may affect their work, which may affect the relationships that they have, which may affect the way that they look at life. So though we have this two types of grief, there is many other types of griefs that people don't understand. And it's very important that people also identify themselves with the emotion that they're feeling. Because we fail to identify, as much as grief is a natural response, it doesn't mean that you have to just let yourself be. It means that you have to identify, you have to acknowledge, and then you have to find the right support for yourself at that time. So we are here, we're on festive season. This is most of the times where people face grief. This is a time where people are going back to their villages. This is a time where a lot of people are supposed to be meeting up with their loved ones. And some have lost their loved ones. Some have not reflected or, looked back at how this has impacted them. And you are going back home. You are going to face an empty house. Every Christmas, every New Year's, this is what happened, the rituals that happened back at home. And it's not normal because your loved one is not there. And I want to also talk about, the loss of money, the loss of other relationships, how we keep on moving on without addressing such issues and failing to understand the impact that it has or it has left in you. It's when it will now show the impact or the effect of it during this time, where you look back. January, we were excited to start the new year. We had resolutions written down, but we have not achieved a lot of things that we actually wanted to achieve. What time do you actually put aside to be very sincere with yourself and say, these are the things that I wanted to achieve, and this is where I failed. These are my losses. These are my achievements. How do I now move forward to the next year?
I want to pause you before you move on to come back to, you said there's acute and there's complicated and other types of grief. But in terms of time frame, right? When you have that loss, whether it be a relationship, a marriage, or whatever the issue, what's a normal time frame? Is there a normal time frame? What is it if that's the case? And where do you now need to stop and take stock of the fact that this is too much now. I'm not dealing with this well. I'm not coping with this well.
Yes, so there is no one size fits all when it comes to grief, because we are talking about emotions. And again, I cannot say there is a time frame because we react differently. People who may be found with acute grief experiences are maybe people who are very fast to grasp and acknowledge and look for ways to move on.
Yeah.
And then people with complicated, it may be taking so long to understand what is happening and also being afraid of actually stepping out and finding help.
Yeah.
They may bear the pain differently. So I can't really say that there is a time frame to say if you have a loss, immediately you may experience grief and you may heal faster. Or if you've experienced loss beginning of the year, by December you would have forgotten, you would have healed, you have found things. And there is people who may experience therapy and other tools that they that are surrounded them, who can go on for more than a year seeking support. But there are people who can just be okay within 8 weeks. So we can't put a time frame on it. But one thing that I always say is people need to understand that you have to take personal responsibility. You have to ensure that you understand that this is an experience and it doesn't form a part of you. And through therapy and through other tools that and support that is available, you can be able to identify yourself within the loss and within the grief. And if at all, you are going through an assessment and they found out that you are dealing with emotions better than the other person, there will be other things that may be recommended. And, there could be psychiatric referrals, there could be spiritual referrals where you have to see a priest, where you have, depending on your ritual, depending on your practices, depending on what you believe in.
Okay, so you have to take responsibility for that. We will talk at some point about how to deal and how to cope with it in terms of dealing with grief, but still on the theme of the difference between where it's normal, where it's acute, where it's complicated. You mentioned needing to identify the emotion. I'd like you to just get a little bit more into detail about that, to say, how does somebody do that?
I think first we need to acknowledge what we are feeling. Is it painful? Is it a physical pain? Is it an emotional pain? There are a lot of times where people go to a doctor and they say, I'm feeling sick, and they don't even know which part is feeling sick. And with grief, it's mostly emotions. And if you cannot identify where is it that hurts and why is this hurting this much, normally that's how we help clients to identify with their emotions. How is this impacting me? Why am I feeling this way? Why is it that when I think of this, or the smell, the place, a certain environment, why is it that it reminds me of this person? It reminds me of that loss. And how does this make me feel? And, it's something, again, that an individual can fail to do by themselves. That is why I want to just encourage people to seek support. And support, even though it's not professional, support could be a friend. Being able to have somebody to vent on, being able to share how you are actually feeling. I remember myself, I lost a friend years back, and I wasn't aware that I am grieving and I'm actually going through this. I remember going to a medical doctor and breaking down. Because I'm a counselor, I kept continuing seeing other people and supporting them and not seeking support for myself. And this gentleman asked me one question. The doctor, he says to me, when last did you get your cycle? And I just couldn't answer that question. I was so messed in my grief that I didn't know when last I got my cycle, when last I had a Coke, when last I went out with friends. I kept saying to him, I think the other day, are you pregnant? I don't know. When last did you become intimate? I don't know. Like, I didn't know anything. That is when I identified that, no, man, this is just not okay. Like, I'm going through something,
Yeah.
and I'm losing myself in the midst of this thing. And he then said to me, I'm going to refer you for therapy because I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I can't treat and, I can treat and discharge you, but you need a therapist who can help you identify these emotions and deal with them and give you tools and give you the support that you need.
Yeah.
And, after 6 weeks, I felt much better, and I could identify that the thing that was hurting was losing a friend the way I lost them. And the memories that I kept having were the negative memories, and I could not picture myself swapping the positive memories and the good memories that we created.
Oh, okay. So that's on the issue of identifying it. Let's now touch a little on how to deal with it. I feel like when something, when you go through that loss, you often want to take a break, hide yourself, bury your head in the sand. You don't want to deal with it. And to a certain extent, I think you should be allowed to do that, because it's just, sometimes it's sudden, it's tragic, it's just too much. Take that break. Or should you face it head on? If you do take that break, when should you, because you can't take the break forever. You do need to come to that reality.
Yes.
So which one is best, or is there a best? What works? How does...
I would say they have to work one with the other.
Okay.
You have to face the grief. You have to face the love. You have to face the reality of the loss. But there are times where you feel very overwhelmed. There are times where you know that you have overdone the strength and the resilience. And if you feel at that point, then you take a break. And like you are saying, Kathy, when you take a break, you can't take a break forever, because there is the reality of life. There's the day-to-day life that needs you. If you're a business person, if you are a mother, if you are a father, and life has to move on. So I would still say that it is very important that when you are dealing with grief, you are sincere to yourself and you take personal responsibility. What can work for me? And create rituals as well. Create practices that can work for you. If you can afford the break, take the break and understand why you are taking the break, what is going to happen in that break. Because a break can be you sleeping and waking up 6 hours a day. That may affect you also negatively. That may lend you into anxiety. So you have to balance, and you need to understand what works for you. How can you, deal with facing it? What tools do you have? Because you cannot go to war without any tools.
We'll talk about these tools when we talk about therapy, but for now I want to know, in terms of this support, right? You mentioned supporting other people as a counselor, but not realizing you needed support. I'd like to know what some of the things that you can see that show you need support are, and also now putting yourself in the other person's shoes. If you need to support somebody without being overbearing, how do you do that?
Yes. So, sometimes support, people may think it means physically being there and having to hold somebody's hand and walk them through. But support can come as an ear. Just being able to listen to someone and identifying within what they are saying that the person is feeling this way. They may not need me physically. They may need a little bit of space.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's not an easy thing if you're an unprofessional counselor to identify what kind of support the person needs, if you are overbearing them or what. So with my experience dealing with clients who experience grief, I have always said, communication is very good. Being able to say, I feel this way when we do this, and this is because, it makes me feel this way, and I would like a bit of space. Sometimes they may not be able to say that, but as a person who's providing the support, you need to be able to learn, your friend, your partner, and see if you are overbearing them. If you talk about something and they're not responding, if you talk about something and they give you this big sigh, like, yeah, they're a little overwhelmed, always ask questions like, do you need a break? Do you want us to talk about this later? And I also wanted to just mention that triggers of grief come in different waves. It might be just a scent,
A song.
It might be a color, it might be an environment that that experience happened in, or it's similar to what the experience happened in. And you have to be able to identify if you are being triggered because of this place. We can't run away from places, songs, and scents, but how do we deal with them at the time that we're in that place?
This is Moving Humanity Forward podcast, and this is the festive season, but there is grief that some people deal with during this time. So we're getting to the bottom of it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Dikukama executive e rekisa di-conference halls e na le conference e tona e leng gore e tshwara batho ba ba kana 800 people e be nna le di-conference tse dingwe tse dinyenyane di le 4 mme tse di harologanang ka di-size. Dikukama executive e na le maroko a mantsi, e na le maroko a le 32. Mo maroko a 32 the executive di 16, the standard di 16, all in all is 32. Dikukama executive e tshwara batho ba bantsi ba ba tswang dikgaolong, ba ba tswang bogaborone kana batho ba bojanala. Di-price tsa rona tsa di-hotele, di-standard tsa rona ke 500 pula, di-executive tsa rona ke 1,130 pula. Re na le restaurante, re na le dining ko batho ba jalang teng, re na le bara, re na le bara e combine le restaurant. You buy your food, you stay there, o a go jala teng ko bareng kana ba tla go jala ko dining hela. Ha o batla megala ya rona ke 6540 420 box 228 Tsabong. Re mo Bogosing ward, Bogosing ward mo e along the road ya main road ya rona o tswa Gaborone. Dikukama executive hotels.co.bw.
Welcome back. This is Moving Humanity Forward podcast. That is how you find us, by the way, if you type Moving Humanity Forward podcast on YouTube as well as on LinkedIn and TikTok. And then on Facebook, MHF podcast. That's the page to find us. We'd love for you to like, we'd love for you to share, and we'd love for you to subscribe to the page. We do want these numbers to keep growing. Happy festive season, by the way. We're talking about something that I know a lot of people deal with, and I think it's just that much harder. It's just got that bittersweet tinge to it when you're dealing with grief during the festive season. I have in studio with me today Pearl, and we're talking grief, Pearl, and looking at how to support someone who's going through grief without you don't want to be overbearing, but you also at the same time want to help as much as you can and support this person. I want to know about now, as the person who's going through this grief, you've said it's important for us to take responsibility, right? We have to take responsibility for ourselves. So I want to know how we go about doing that. How do I start? Where do I even begin? I don't have energy. I've lost somebody close to me, or I've lost a job. I'm broke. How do you want me to take responsibility?
Yeah, I think we need to start by acknowledging the grief. Yes, you don't have the energy, but you know what is going on. You are hurting.
Yeah.
You have lost something so close to you, and then setting the boundaries and communicating them clear.
Okay.
Either to the people who are around you, who are trying to offer the support, maybe to the people that you are working with, being able to say, this is how I feel and this is what I would like to do at this time, so that people don't overstep. Because sometimes when you are going through grief, it can turn you into a bitter person without you actually noticing that. There may be people who want to support you, hold your hand, and you push them back. Sometimes it's people who want to know what has really happened.
Yeah.
And it may sound like, they are getting into your personal life. So you need to be very clear on your boundaries, especially communication boundaries. And if you feel that you are not able to speak at that time, make it clear to the people. If you feel you need a little bit of a break and want to withdraw a bit, also be clear. And when we talk about personal responsibility, it includes also validating the emotions. Be able to understand what you are feeling. We spoke a little bit about how is this making me feel, and why is this making me feel this way. There's a lot of times that people go through grief and they get triggered by what people say, how people look at them, or just look, at an environment. And we need to identify those triggers and why is this triggering me? Why is this reminding or bringing out an emotion of anger, an emotion of bitterness? And like you're saying, grief, it's something that you cannot really tell when it will come and when it will go. And it keeps getting better and it keeps getting harder. You might think that it's 2 years I've lost my mom. I should be fine by now. But if you don't engage with yourself, if you don't make sure that you have rituals and practices that you can actually do that can make every single day better for yourself, you will always regress.
Okay, so allow me to just because you're saying, and even when anybody says, it should be fine. No, it shouldn't be. Like, there's no way I'm going to be fine because I haven't even started to deal with the grief. I have acknowledged it. And you've talked about tools. I have no idea what kind of tools can help. You also mentioned therapy. Let's get into that to say, can therapy help? We're talking talk therapy. What can help actually? And what are some tools that can assist? Because I clearly have not been doing that. I've got insomnia. I'm not sleeping. It's a mess.
Yeah, that is very common, Kathy. And I like that you are using the word assist. What tools can assist? Because you have to practice self-care first.
Yeah.
And the reason why I speak about personal responsibility is because therapy can be a bit like 10% of the tool.
Yeah.
And the 90 is you.
Yeah.
It's between you and your thoughts. It's between you and your emotions. It's between you and the environment that you keep being in that triggers you. So this is a journey that you need to take alone, but with the tools that are available. Therapy can be a tool. When we talk about tools also, we're talking about things that are helpful or can take you from one processing emotion to another. And this can be activities like hiking, meditation, prayer if you are somebody who prays, talking to people. But you need to engage with yourself because we cannot just say, oh, Kathy is not doing well and has insomnia because she hasn't seen a therapist. Kathy has the tools also herself. And Kathy needs to engage with herself. And Kathy needs to say, this is how I'm feeling, and validate those emotions and know how to regulate them. So it might help you, or it might help one person, it might not help the other person. So we need to practice our own rituals, create activities that can work for you, that are engaging, activities that will help lift and lighten up your mood. If you are going through grief and you choose to look at a picture of the certain thing that you have lost every single day, how do you expect Pearl as a therapist to come and take you out of that?
So someone is watching this, they've just gone through a divorce, they have kids maybe with their ex-partner, they're probably now going to have to learn how to co-parent. There's the nightmare of which friends choose which, and I don't understand that part. Can't we just be everybody's friends, So, and you're saying, no, take yourself out of it. Okay, fine. But to a certain extent, that child looks just like that person, So what are some other tools that can assist? How can you keep moving forward?
Yes, I like that question because I went through a divorce myself. And my son, who's only 5, looks exactly like the father. And I remember saying to my friends who didn't understand me then, the first time I knew I'm grieving my ex-husband was the last day of court when I was told we're given a decree and a C. I drove from court alone and I yelled and cried and wept, and I actually packed on the side of the road and I cried. After a few minutes of crying, I said, why am I crying? Why is it painful? It was relieving, but it was painful. I have been with someone for 9 years. We have 2 beautiful children, but the process of divorce was so painful that when it actually ended, it felt like a big loss. Like, should I have tried more? Should I
give it enough?
Yes. And I was beating myself up as much as I was very proud of myself from working out of it. And that is when I identified that I am grieving and I need to be very sensitive with myself. And every time I met somebody who may look alike, who may be dressed in a shirt like him, who may be driving a similar car to him, I was triggered. And like I say, there is no way you can do it by yourself. Is to identify among the friends, among the circles that you keep, who is it that I can relate with when I speak about my grief? Who is it that can give me a better ear, a better shoulder when I'm talking about my grief? And then, if they are sincere also at a point where they know that support is not needed, they will then recommend for you to go for therapy, recommend for you to see other people so that you create a support structure. But it's very important that you identify your support structure and understand who you can go to and speak about what, so that tomorrow you don't say, oh, I spoke to my mom, and she doesn't have capacity. Yeah.
So one of the things you mentioned was self-care. That's really important. And I mean, I mentioned sleep because I know that's certainly very vital for me, right? But I've also gotten accustomed to the fact that when something's wrong, like I have no energy, I'm fatigued, whatever, so obviously the sleep is tying into that. What are some self-care tips? What are some ways that people need to be de-stressing, managing their stress in this period of time? How can they be doing that, and why is that even an important thing?
Well, this is very important. Self-care, it's an investment. It's not an expense. And it's very important that we take time. I've spoken a lot about functional depression. And a lot of people who are grieving end up going through functional depression. You go to work, you perform very well, you're a very good father, you're a good mother, good husband. But when you are with yourself, are you happy with yourself? Yeah, when you are with yourself, you find that you are depressed, you are feeling low, you don't have the confidence that you used to feel. And if you cannot be with yourself, if you cannot love yourself when you are alone, not in the midst of groups, then you should be seeking support. You should be saying that there's something wrong with me. If you find yourself tossing the whole night, not being able to sleep, mind is going through, a lot of thoughts, then you should be stopping and say, wait, maybe I need support. Maybe I don't have capacity to care for myself. I need somebody to care for me. I need an extra hand, a stronger hand to take me through. So there is many practices that we can do for self-care. I've mentioned a few: meditation, prayer, hiking, sports, gardening. This beautiful connection that we have with nature that we forget and we sort of like misunderstand. Barefoot walking, things that are very simple. I've had a lot of clients saying, I cannot afford to take care of myself. I was like, how? Bathing yourself is taking care of yourself. Talking positively to yourself is taking care of yourself. So we need to identify things that are not attached to materials, things that are not attached to money that can work for us. And we know ourselves. It takes discipline for one to actually say that I'm taking this journey and I'm taking personal responsibility without blaming people, without looking back and saying, I don't want to deal with this. Yeah. And there is also a difference between dealing with it and coping with it. So we need to practice dealing, because coping is like we keep bandaging the sword. Yeah.
So we're just taking it along with us, whereas dealing is trying to say, look, grief, you and I need to reckon and deal with each
Yes,
other.
because grief will disappear and come back. It's like a scar. Yes, it will itch some days. Some days it will be normal. It will be fine. You can't feel it. You forget about it. So that is why we need to learn dealing skills, so that when it comes, we identify that it's there. We're not trying to run away from it, but we acknowledge that this is how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling a little under the weather. That's what people like to say.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? Why are you feeling under the weather?
So part of why I thought this conversation was so vital is because, festive season is a very significant time, right? And a lot of the time, that's the time you spend with family. So for sure that I know that's going to be a hard time for me, right? And anybody going through loss of whatever the case may be, that relationship, that marriage, that job, that career, the business, the money, your health, those milestones, your birthday, that person's birthday, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, all of those milestones, Christmas, festive, it is. And like I said, because the festive season is the season to be merry, and you're there just being the party pooper, this is so hard. Do we really need to celebrate? What is there to celebrate? How do we navigate through that?
Yes, and I think that's a very important question, Kathy, because festive season also is the most time where people are free.
Yeah.
And whenever there's a lingering mind, there's a lot of emotions involved. There's a lot of thoughts that come through. And people need to take care of themselves now than ever.
Yeah.
Especially in our country, this year we've been through a lot of losses. We've had times where it's not only our family members that we've lost.
Yeah.
We have a scourge, GBV scourge that's going on. And we've seen, in the news line every single day, how are we going to make sure we can be merry when there's also this wave
also the festive season seems to be the time where the GBV cases go
skyrocketing.
Crazy.
Exactly.
Because, every single year between Christmas, just before Christmas and just after New Year's, that, I don't know, 8 or 9 day period, the figures are staggering, and every year consistently they have gone up.
Yes, because we don't know how to deal with ourselves. People don't make time to learn how to deal with themselves, your angers, the happy emotions, because other people go so excited that they do things that they would regret tomorrow. So we have not learned how to deal with ourselves. And in this 2 weeks or 1 week that we have all the time and we have no plans. So it's very important that people plan for their days. How are you going to spend your days? With who? If it's among people that are grieving with you, it will be great to practice or plan for rituals. Are we going to go to the cemetery? Are we taking flowers? And are we going to get a pastor to support us? Because you can't do it by yourself. So we are great at celebrating anniversaries and our death anniversaries, our wedding anniversaries, and Christmas as well. But we never really put into consideration the emotional care.
I know I'm going to run out of time, so I want to touch base on honoring your loved one, that marriage, the whatever, the career, the business. You've put time, energy, effort into that person, that thing, that business, whatever. So how do we honor its memory even when you no longer have it? Because I think the last thing you want to do is break up with someone and start saying, like you don't want that. And also just for us to find our meaning, find our purpose, because sometimes that loss can be so deep. I remember after having been fired from a radio station and I had to move back home, and I remember I felt so lost, like my identity itself felt so threatened at that point in time. So how does one deal with that even while honoring the memory?
Yes, it's very important to know how you want to honor the memory. I go back to saying that let's not only look at things that are material attached, because that may create pressure and unnecessary pressure. If you'd like to honor your loved one by, the music that they used to love, maybe the food, like Christmas Day, if it's mom, food that she liked to cook, talk good things that you guys share together. I think that will be the best way than focusing more on what didn't happen, what you missed out on, because that may create a wave of emotions that you may not be able to deal with by yourself. So I would suggest that people look into the positive side of things. Yes, you may have lost the money, but when you had the money, what did you do that worked for you? Plan for the future now. What are we going to do next year so that we don't experience this? Or if we do experience it, how we will make it bearable for ourselves. So I think it's time for people to reflect and say, this is the time of, loss and grief. I am here. There is another couple of years coming ahead of me. How do I plan for that? And who do I now rope into my support structure for, experiences like this?
I think that's really important. And I'd like you to perhaps now wrap up our conversation by talking to the viewer and letting them know how they find their meaning, how they find their purpose, even after having lost their health, that relationship, their career, their job, their loved one.
Yeah, it's a very challenging one to give it out and say this is how you can find your purpose. It's a journey. And one has to start just by acknowledging that they have a loss, and identifying then how the loss has impacted them, so that they're able to say then, if I cannot manage this, what can I do better? What can I manage for the next coming years?
Yeah.
And I want to also acknowledge that there is societal pressures. You shared your experience of having to lose a job and going back home. The expectation is that it's December, it's Christmas, it's festive season. Everyone who's coming should come with a bag full of food, should come with a pocket full of money, should come with a car full of fuel. And we need to also manage that by communicating, communicating with our loved ones ahead of time to say, I have been through this year and this is what I am able to contribute. I have experienced a loss of a mom, my partner, and this time I would like you guys to take the children so I can be by myself a little bit and be very clear about that. When it comes to issues of finding your purpose, it needs somebody to identify self-identity. Who are you as a person? Not the position at work, not the position at church, not what people see you as in the streets. Who are you and what is it that you want to do or become in this life journey? And once you've identified with that, then you should be able then to know, purpose, it's mostly comes with passion as well. Things that you can do that you love doing without having to go to school and learn and, engage other people. So this is a journey that needs a lot of support. And we are here. I'm here as a counselor. There's many other places that during the festive season, people can look up. Let's use our social media positively. Look up for where we can get support.
Yeah.
Reach out. And MHF is here also. Will be giving us all this content. Let's keep repeating this and learn and see what we can take from it, what can work for us, what practices we can include in our new year.
I love that. And speaking of you, you are Ratong Center. Where do people find you? How can they engage you and get a hold of you?
Thank you for that. Ratong Center is based in Broadest. We provide counseling, all sorts of counseling. We also deal mostly with trauma-informed care. People can find us on our Facebook page at Ratong Center, Instagram Ratong Center Botswana, and our contacts 72337399. We provide free counseling, by the way. You can just reach out to us and, get a counselor to appoint with you, and let's see how we can navigate this together.
So we find you on Facebook as well as on Instagram as Ratong Center. And then please just repeat that number again.
Our contact is on WhatsApp. It's also 72337399. You can reach out to us on WhatsApp and speak to any of our counselors for an appointment. Or you can give us a call and come to the center in Broadhurst, Tshenolo.
Okay, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add as we close off our conversation, because I think you've given me homework, Pearl.
Well, it's just to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and just to say, please be sincere with yourself. There's a lot of pressure out there. There's a lot of things happening, both good and bad. Let's just, love on ourselves a little bit more and love on our neighbors.
And that's how we'll close it off. This has been another edition of Moving Humanity Forward podcast. We'll catch you next week.